The gateway tasted like ash and old blood. Blade tumbled through the tear in reality, his leather coat whipping around him as he hit cobblestone hard enough to crack it. Rain hammered down on unfamiliar streets, not the New York alleys he knew, but something older, European, Gothic. The air carried a different scent. Back home, vampires hid in shadows, played human, feared discovery. Here, the night itself felt owned. He rolled to his feet, silver stake already in hand, scanning for the vampire he'd been chasing. The leech had been desperate, screaming about the old world as it carved symbols in its own blood. Then the portal had ripped open, howling with impossible energies, and Blade had made a choice: let it escape, or follow it into the unknown. Never let them run. The portal had sealed behind him. No matter. He'd killed vampires in Tokyo, Moscow, Cairo. Geography didn't change the mission. Find them. End them. Movement flickered across a rooftop, too fast, too fluid. Not the vampire he'd followed. Something else. Blade's hand went to his modified Beretta, loaded with silver nitrate rounds. His enhanced senses catalogued everything: the rain's metallic taste, the ozone smell of old stone, and underneath it all, the copper-sweet stink of fresh blood. A lot of it. A woman dropped from the darkness. She landed in a crouch 20 feet away, and Blade's tactical assessment was instant and brutal. Trained combatant, custom weapons, leather tactical suit that cost more than most vampires' coffins. Her dark hair was pulled back severe, her pale face all sharp angles and colder eyes. But it was the pistol in her hand, modified, specialized, and the way she moved that told him everything. Death dealer. He didn't know how he knew the term, but it sat in his mind like an echo of the vampire's desperate screams before the portal. "You're the one they're talking about," she said. Her accent was precise, aristocratic. "The Daywalker." Blade's lip curled. "They've been talking." Right, cleaving through the second vampire's extended arm. They were good. Well trained. Coordinated. He was better. The third vampire tried to flank him, but Blade had already tracked its heartbeat, its breath pattern, the slight displacement of air. He ducked under its grab, drove his elbow through its spine, and finished it with a stake between the shoulder blades as it fell. 12 seconds. 3 vampires. Dead. Selene hadn't moved. Her gun was trained on him, but her eyes had changed. Calculation replacing certainty. "You're no hybrid," she said quietly. "And you're no Lycan. What are you?" "You're Extinction." Blade pulled his stake free, the vampire corpse crumbling to dust. "I don't care about your war, your politics, your bloodlines. You're vampires. That's all I need to know." "There's a war," Selene said. "Between vampires and Lycans. You've just entered a battlefield you don't understand. Don't care about werewolves either." Blade leveled his sword at her. "I care about one thing, no more bloodsuckers. Starting with you." She should have fired. Should have called for backup. Instead, Selene's head tilted, studying him with an intensity that reminded him of the way predators assessed threats. "You walk in sunlight. You have a vampire's strength. You're hunting the Ortegaz coven, which means you tracked them here. You're not from this world. Smart. Dangerous combination with those reflexes." "Doesn't change anything," Blade said. "It changes everything." Selene's gun lowered slightly. "Victor will want to know about you. The elders will." A howl split the night. Not a wolf. Something bigger. Deeper. Selene's entire posture shifted, combat focus snapping to the shadows beyond the alley. Lycans. Here. They never come this close to the mansion. Werewolves. Blade's grip on his sword tightened. Just keeps getting better. 4 shapes emerged from the darkness. Massive, bipedal, fur-covered nightmares with jaws that could crush steel. Not the mindless. You killed 17 of the Ortegaz coven in 36 hours. Her gun didn't waver. Impossible. Vampires don't hunt vampires, and humans can't move like you do. I'm not human. Blade's hand tightened on his stake. And I don't leave witnesses. She fired. Blade was already moving, his superhuman speed turning the world into slow-motion frames. The bullet whined past his ear. Silver, he registered, these vampires knew how to kill their own kind. He closed the distance in 3 strides, stake driving toward her heart. She was fast. Faster than most vampires he'd fought. The stake scraped against reinforced leather as she twisted, her elbow cracking into his jaw with enough force to stagger a normal man. Blade's head snapped back, but he didn't feel pain the way humans did. He grabbed her wrist, twisted, felt bones grind. She hissed, not in pain, in fury, and her eyes. They weren't the solid black or demonic red he was used to. They shifted, ice blue to something predatory and ancient, and when she bared her fangs they were elegant, surgical. Different. Wrong. What the hell are you? Blade growled. Selene. Death dealer of the vampire coven. She wrenched free with strength that matched his own, flipping backward. And you're coming with me? I don't think so. 3 more vampires dropped from the surrounding rooftops. All armed. All moving with the same lethal grace. These weren't the desperate, feral leeches he hunted in back alleys. These were soldiers. Blade's hand went to his sword. You really want to do this? Victor wants you alive, Selene said. But he didn't say intact. The first vampire lunged. Blade's sword sang free, and the night erupted in violence. His blade found the vampire's throat in a silver arc, and the leech disintegrated, not into ash like back home, but something faster, more absolute, like cellular collapse. 2 more came at him from opposite sides. Blade spun, stake in his left hand punching through leather and ribs, sword in his. Beasts from legends. These moved with purpose, with intelligence, and they were staring directly at Blade. One of them spoke, its voice a guttural rasp, the Daywalker. Lucian wants him alive. If you want to see more characters cross into unexpected universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a crossover you'd love to see in the comments below. This is just the beginning. Selene and Blade exchanged a glance, enemies 1 second, something approaching allies the next. This isn't over, she said. No, Blade agreed, turning his blade toward the Lycans. It's just getting started. The werewolves charged. The first Lycan came in low, claws extended, jaws wide enough to take Blade's head off in one bite. He sidestepped, let momentum carry the beast past him, and his sword opened its flank from shoulder to hip. The Lycan screamed, a sound caught between human agony and animal rage, but didn't fall. It spun, faster than something that size had any right to move, and backhanded him into a brick wall. The impact would have killed a human. Blade felt ribs crack, tasted blood, and was already moving before the debris settled. His healing factor kicked in, bones knitting as he rolled under the second Lycan's charge and came up with his Beretta spitting silver rounds into its chest. The Lycan staggered but didn't drop. These things were tougher than any werewolf he'd encountered. Selene moved like death itself. Her modified pistols barked in rapid succession, each shot placed with surgical precision, throat, heart, skull. One Lycan went down twitching. She ejected spent magazines without looking, reloaded in a blur, and put 3 more rounds into another beast's knees before it could reach her. Silver nitrate rounds, Blade observed, driving his stake through a Lycan's eye socket. The creature's howl cut off mid-scream. You hunt your own kind too. Lycans aren't our kind. Selene's voice was ice. They're animals who forgot their place. The last Lycan standing wasn't attacking. It backed toward the alley's mouth, yellow eyes locked on Blade with an intelligence that made his instinct scream. This one was different. A scout. A messenger. Lucian will pay well for you, Daywalker, it rasped. The vampires fear what they don't understand. But we understand perfectly. You're a weapon. The question is, who wields you? Blade raised his gun. Nobody wields me. Then you'll die with the leeches. The Lycan smiled, an obscene expression on that monstrous face. Lucian offers alliance. The vampires offer chains. Choose wisely. It was gone before Blade could fire, dissolving into the shadows with inhuman speed. Silence fell over the alley, broken only by the rain and the crackling dissolution of Lycan corpses. Blade's ribs had finished healing. He checked his weapons, low on silver rounds, 3 stakes left, sword still intact. His tactical assessment was grim. Unknown city. Unknown number of hostiles. 2 factions at war, both of which wanted him. Standard Tuesday. Selene hadn't lowered her weapons. You fight well. For an abomination. Right back at you, leech. I'm taking you to the mansion, she said. Victor will decide what to do with you. Blade laughed, a cold, humorless sound. You think you're taking me anywhere? You're outnumbered. Outgunned. You don't know this city, and both vampires and Lycans now know you exist. Selene's tactical logic was flawless. Come willingly, or I'll call in the entire Death Dealer Corps. You're good. You're not that good. She was right, and Blade hated it. Fighting his way through an entire vampire army in unknown territory was suicide. But surrendering to bloodsuckers went against every instinct he had. Victor, he said. Your boss. An elder. One of the first vampires. He's ruled the coven for 600 years. Something flickered in Selene's expression, not quite respect, something darker. If anyone can understand what you are, it's him. And if I don't like his answers, then you die. Simple. Matter of fact. But you'll have learned something first. Blade studied her. She believed it, believed this Victor was untouchable, unkillable. He'd heard that before. Had a whole graveyard of unkillable vampires who'd learned otherwise. One condition, Blade said. I keep my weapons. No. Then we've got a problem. Selene's jaw tightened. You walk into the mansion armed, the death dealers will cut you down before you reach the entrance. Victor's paranoia isn't negotiable. Neither is my survival. But the vampires themselves, they were different. They didn't just inhabit the mansion, they owned it with the casual arrogance of aristocracy. They wore their immortality like expensive suits, moved through the space with the confidence of apex predators who'd never known real fear. Until they saw Blade. Conversation stopped. Eyes tracked him, ice blue shifting to that predatory gleam. He counted 14 vampires in the entrance hall alone. All old enough to be dangerous. All staring at him like he was a riddle wrapped in a threat. A tall vampire in antiquated clothing stepped forward, some kind of administrator or majordomo. Selene. You bring an outsider to the mansion. On this night, when the council convenes. He's the one who decimated the Ortegaz coven, Selene said. Victor will want to see him. Murmurs rippled through the gathered vampires. The administrator's nostrils flared. He reeks of vampire blood. And yet he walks. This is an abomination. Yeah, I get that a lot. Blade's voice cut through the whispers. Where's Victor? The administrator's face twisted with contempt. You do not address the elders, mongrel. You do not speak unless. Con. Selene's voice was steel. Stand down. Victor gave me authority over death dealer operations. This falls under my jurisdiction. Khan's eyes narrowed, but he stepped aside. On your head, Selene. If this creature causes trouble. He won't, Selene said, though her hand never left her weapon. Will you, Daywalker? Blade smiled, showing teeth. Depends on how polite Victor is. They descended deeper into the mansion, past opulent chambers and through corridors that spoke of centuries of accumulated wealth and power. The architecture grew older the further they went, Roman columns giving way to medieval stonework. This place had history. Bad history, if Blade's instincts were right. You should know something, Selene said as they approached massive wooden doors carved with intricate designs. Victor. They stared at each other, rain streaming between them, two killers calculating odds and outcomes. Finally, Selene lowered her gun slightly. I'll speak for you, she said. Tell Victor you came willingly, that you're intelligent enough to understand diplomacy. But the weapons stay outside. And you trust me to behave? I trust that you're smart enough to know when you're beaten. Selene's smile was razor-thin. And curious enough to want answers about this world before you start killing everyone in it. She had him there. Blade needed intelligence, terrain, faction strength, power structures. Walking into their stronghold was insane. It was also exactly the kind of recon he couldn't get any other way. If this Victor tries to turn me, Blade said quietly, I'll kill everyone in that mansion. Including you. Noted. Selene holstered her pistols. Follow me. Stay close. And for both our sakes, don't do anything stupid. The mansion rose from the hillside like something from a Gothic nightmare, all stone and stained glass and architectural arrogance. Blade counted defensive positions automatically, murder holes in the walls, reinforced doors, windows designed for overlapping fields of fire. This wasn't just a home. It was a fortress. Death dealers patrolled the grounds in pairs, all armed, all moving with Selene's predatory grace. They stared at Blade with open hostility, hands on weapons, and he could feel the tension crackling through the air like electricity before a storm. They can smell what you are, Selene murmured. Half vampire. It confuses them. Makes them aggressive. Good. I like my enemies aggressive. Makes them sloppy. She shot him a look that might have been grudging respect. The entrance hall was ridiculous, marble floors, vaulted ceilings, artwork that probably belonged in museums. Vampires with delusions of grandeur. Some things never changed across universes. Doesn't tolerate disrespect. He's killed vampires for less than what you've already said. Then he and I are going to get along great. The doors opened. The chamber beyond was a throne room pretending to be a council hall. 3 seats dominated the space, ornate, ancient, 2 of them empty. The third held a figure that made every vampire Blade had seen so far look like pretenders. Victor. He was tall, aristocratic, with features that would have been handsome if they weren't carved from centuries of cruelty. His eyes were the color of old ice, and when they fixed on Blade, it was like being assessed by something that had survived plagues, wars, and empires. So, Victor said, his voice cultured and cold. The impossible vampire. Selene's report was intriguing. Blade met his gaze without flinching. You wanted to see me. Here I am. Remarkable. Victor rose from his throne with fluid grace. A vampire who walks in sunlight. Who hunts his own kind. Who appears from nowhere and slaughters an entire coven in days. He circled Blade like a predator studying prey. What are you? Your worst nightmare, Blade said. A vampire with a conscience. Victor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Conscience. How delightfully human. He stopped circling, standing close enough that Blade could have staked him in 2 moves. I've lived 600 years, child. I've seen empires fall and witnessed the birth of nations. I've turned kings and killed legends. And in all that time, I've never seen anything like you. First time for everything. Indeed. Victor's smile was death wearing silk. Which brings us to the central question, why shouldn't I kill you where you stand? Blade didn't move. Didn't reach for weapons he no longer carried. Just held Victor's gaze with the flat, cold stare of someone who'd faced down older, meaner monsters and walked away. Because you're curious, Blade said. And because I know something about the Lycans that you don't. Victor's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room dropped. Around them, the Vampire Council members, lesser elders and aristocrats, shifted nervously. Selene's hand moved fractionally closer to her weapon. You've been in my world for hours, Victor said softly. What could you possibly know? They called me by name. Knew what I was before we fought. Blade let that sink in. Your war isn't just vampires versus werewolves anymore. They're hunting something specific. And they think I'm the answer. Victor's eyes narrowed. Explain. The Lycan that escaped said Lucian wants me alive. Not dead. Not captured for interrogation. Specifically alive and functional. Blade's tactical mind pieced it together as he spoke. They've got a plan, and whatever it is, they think a daywalking vampire is the missing piece. Silence fell over the chamber. Selene stepped forward. My lord, the Lycan mentioned something about a weapon. If Lucian believes the Daywalker can. I heard what the beast said, Selene. Victor's voice could have cut steel. What concerns me is how rapidly Lucian learned of our guest's existence. The Ortegaz coven was destroyed last night. By dawn, Lycans were already moving to acquire him. He turned back to Blade. Someone told them. Someone in this very mansion. The council erupted in protests and accusations. Victor raised one hand, and silence crashed down like a physical force. A traitor walks among us, Victor continued. Not the first. Certainly not the last. But this one has just made themselves invaluable, and vulnerable. His smile was a predator's promise. When we find them, their death will serve as reminder of the price of betrayal. Blade filed that away. Internal politics. Faction splits. Every organization had them, vampire or human. Could be useful. In the meantime, Victor said, you present an interesting problem, Daywalker. You're dangerous, unknown, and apparently coveted by our enemies. I could kill you. Eliminate the variable entirely. You could try. Victor's laugh was genuine this time. Oh, I like you. Arrogant. Suicidal. Refreshingly honest about your capabilities. He returned to his throne, settling into it with the casual authority of 6 centuries of rule. But I'm not going to kill you. Not yet. Instead, I'm going to make you an offer. Blade's eyes narrowed. I don't work for vampires. You misunderstand. I'm not offering employment. I'm offering knowledge. Victor gestured, and a vampire servant wheeled in a cart bearing an ancient tome, its leather binding cracked with age. You hunt vampires across your world with singular dedication. Impressive. Futile, but impressive. Here, you have an opportunity to study the oldest bloodlines in existence. To understand the true nature of what you are. I know what I am. Do you? Victor opened the tome. Do you know why you can walk in sunlight? Do you know the mechanism by which vampire blood and human blood coexist in your veins without tearing you apart? Do you understand the potential, the evolution, that you represent? Blade said nothing, but his jaw tightened. I thought not. Victor's smile widened. Knowledge is power, Daywalker. And I offer you something no one in your world can, answers. In exchange, you will help me understand your nature. Your blood, your physiology, your unique gifts. A fair trade. And if I refuse? Then you walk out of this mansion, alone, in a city controlled by my coven, with Lycans hunting you and no allies to call upon. Victor's tone remained pleasant. You're formidable. You've proven that. But you're not immortal, and you're not invincible. Eventually, the odds will overwhelm even you. It was a trap. Your education. Selene, show our guest to the archives. Let him see what 600 years of accumulated knowledge looks like. Perhaps he'll find something useful. As they left the throne room, Blade caught the look Victor exchanged with Khan, a silent communication that screamed hidden agenda. Whatever game the Elder was playing, it went deeper than simple curiosity about a Daywalker's blood. Blade had walked into the lion's den. Now he had to figure out which lions were the real threat. And how to kill them before they killed him. The archives were a library crossed with a mausoleum. Shelves stretched into shadows, crammed with books, scrolls, and leather-bound journals documenting centuries of vampire history. The air smelled of old paper and older blood. Selene pulled a tome from a high shelf with practiced ease. The Corvinus strain. The origin of our species and the Lycans. She opened it, revealing illuminated manuscript pages. 12 centuries ago, a man named Alexander Corvinus survived a plague that should have killed him. The virus mutated his genetic structure, making him effectively immortal. He had 3 sons. Let me guess, Blade said, scanning the text. One became a vampire. One became a werewolf. One stayed human. Selene's eyes widened fractionally. You read Latin. I hunt vampires professionally. You pick things up. Blade studied a diagram showing viral transmission patterns. This Corvinus. He's still alive. Unknown. The elders claim he vanished centuries ago. Selene turned pages. Marcus was bitten by a bat, became the first true vampire. William was bitten by a wolf, became the first Lycan, but couldn't control the transformation. He was a monster, pure and simple. Marcus and Victor imprisoned him centuries ago. And the third son remained human. Mortal. His bloodline continues to this day, supposedly. Blade's tactical mind was already working. If Lycans want me, and I'm a hybrid of vampire and human, maybe they're looking for something similar. A way to combine the species. Impossible. Vampire and Lycan biology are fundamentally incompatible. The bite of one kills the other. Selene closed the book. It's been tried. The results are always fatal. Always. She hesitated. There are rumors. Lucian has been conducting experiments. Trying to create hybrids. But every test subject has died within hours, torn apart by competing viral strains. Unless, Blade said slowly, he finds the right genetic template. Someone whose blood can already handle competing strains. Their eyes met. He thinks you're the key, Selene breathed. Your blood already fuses vampire and human traits. If he could study it, replicate it. He could create an army of daywalking vampire-werewolf hybrids. Blade's voice was grim. Strongest of both species. None of the weaknesses. That's genocide, Selene said. For both our kinds. Humans wouldn't stand a chance. And existing vampires and Lycans would be obsolete. Which is why Victor's really interested in me. Blade's fist clenched. He doesn't want to kill me or study me out of curiosity. He wants to make sure Lucian never gets what I have. Or he wants to weaponize it first. They stared at each other, enemies yesterday, reluctant allies now, both realizing they'd stumbled into something far worse than a simple blood feud. A voice crackled from Selene's radio. Death dealer team reporting. We've got a situation in the warehouse district. Multiple Lycan signatures converging on a single target. Civilian caught in the middle. Selene grabbed her weapons. I have to go. I'm coming with you. Victor said. Victor said coordinate. This is coordinating. Blade's smile was cold. Besides, you might need someone who can walk into a Lycan ambush and walk out. Selene considered, then nodded curtly. Fine. But you follow my lead. This is death dealer jurisdiction. Sure, Blade lied. They moved through the mansion at speed, Selene briefing her team through. Blade knew it with every instinct honed over decades of hunting. Stay, and Victor would study him like a lab specimen, or worse, try to replicate his abilities. Leave, and he'd be fighting a two-front war in hostile territory with no intel and limited resources. Both options sucked. There's a third choice, Blade said. Oh. I help you deal with Lucian. End your war. Then I leave. The council chamber erupted again. Vampires shouting over each other, scandalized that an outsider would dare suggest involving himself in the ancient conflict. Victor silenced them with a gesture, but his eyes gleamed with dark amusement. End the war, he repeated. Just like that. 6 centuries of blood feud, and you propose to simply end it. I've ended bigger problems. Blade's tone was flat. Lucian wants me for something. Let's find out what. Use me as bait. Draw him out. I kill him, your war's over, and I get out of your world. Lucian is no simple Lycan, Selene interjected. He's cunning, ancient, and has evaded every trap we've set for 2 decades. You can't just. Watch me. Victor studied Blade for a long moment. Then he laughed, a genuine sound of appreciation. Magnificent. You truly believe you can accomplish in days what we haven't achieved in centuries. He stood, descending from his throne. Very well. I accept your proposal. With conditions. Always conditions. You will work with Selene. She knows the city, knows Lucian's patterns, knows our resources. You will share intelligence with her, coordinate your actions, and you will not, under any circumstances, act independently within Coven territory. Victor's voice turned to ice. Break these terms, and I will personally hunt you down. Are we clear? Blade looked at Selene. She looked back with an expression that suggested she'd rather stake herself than babysit a daywalking half-breed. Clear, Blade said. Excellent. Victor gestured, and servants appeared with Blade's confiscated weapons. Then let's begin. Encrypted radio while Blade mentally catalogued weapons, exits, and potential threats. Outside, a sleek black car waited, armor-plated, tinted windows, modified engine. Death dealer tactical vehicle. As they roared toward the warehouse district, Blade watched the city blur past. Gothic architecture gave way to industrial decay. This was Lycan territory. Dangerous even for vampires. The civilian, Blade said. What's special about them? Selene's jaw tightened. The target's name is Michael Corvin. Human. Medical student. We've been tracking him for 3 days. Why? Because Lucian's been tracking him for weeks. And we don't know why. Blade's instincts screamed. You think he's connected to this hybrid plan? I think, Selene said grimly, we're about to find out. The warehouse district loomed ahead, abandoned buildings and broken streetlights. Perfect ambush terrain. Blade checked his weapons. Silver stakes. UV grenades. Modified Beretta loaded with silver rounds. Stay in the car, Selene ordered. Not happening. She glared at him, then sighed. Try not to die. I don't want to explain to Victor how I lost our only advantage. They exited the vehicle in synchronized motion, weapons drawn, moving through shadows like the predators they were. Ahead, gunfire echoed. Screams. The wet sound of claws tearing flesh. Blade rounded the corner and saw them, a dozen Lycans surrounding a single human male. Young, terrified, clutching a wound in his shoulder. Blood everywhere. But not just any blood. Even from 50 feet away, Blade could smell it. Special. Different. Important. That's Corvin, Selene whispered. The Lycans hadn't noticed them yet. One of them, massive, scarred, clearly the leader, leaned close to Michael. Don't fight it, the Lycan rumbled. The bite is a gift. Lucian has chosen you. Soon, you'll be more than human. More than Lycan. You'll be the future. Michael screamed as the transformation began. Blade didn't wait for Selene's signal. He moved. The first Lycan died before it realized he was there, silver stake through the base of the skull, spinal column severed. The second turned just in time to catch his sword across the throat, arterial spray painting the warehouse floor. The third managed to howl a warning before Blade's boot caved in its chest cavity. Then the real fight started. Lycans converged from every direction, claws and fangs flashing in the dim light. Blade moved through them like a scalpel through flesh, precise, brutal, efficient. His sword found hearts and throats. His stakes punched through ribs. His enhanced reflexes turned their superior numbers into a liability as they got in each other's way trying to reach him. Selene's gunfire provided percussion to the carnage, each shot dropping a Lycan with surgical accuracy. She moved like liquid death, never staying in one place, always 3 steps ahead of the pack's coordination. But Michael Corvin was still transforming. The young man convulsed on the ground, bones cracking and reforming, muscles tearing and rebuilding. His screams were losing their human quality, becoming something guttural and raw. Blade had seen plenty of transformations, vampires, werewolves, demons. This was different. Wronger. Like watching nature try to resolve an equation it was never meant to solve. The scarred Lycan leader, the one who'd bitten Michael, planted itself between Blade and the transforming human. Up close, Blade could see the intelligence in its yellow eyes, the tactical assessment, the recognition. Daywalker, it growled. Lucian said you'd come. Said vampires would bring you right to us. Its lips peeled back in a hideous grin. He's always right. Lucian set this up. Blade's sword dripped Lycan blood. Used the kid as bait. Bait. Weapon. Future. The Lycan circled, claws flexing. Michael Corvin carries the Corvinus bloodline. Pure strain. Direct descendant of Alexander himself. Lycan bite alone would. Unsettling clarity. What? Michael's voice was hoarse. What happened to me? You got bit by a werewolf, Blade said. Then I saved your life. You're welcome. Saved. Michael tried to sit up, failed, stared at his hands. They were changing, claws extending and retracting, fur sprouting and vanishing, like his body couldn't decide what it was anymore. Oh God. Oh God, what am I? An abomination, Selene said clinically. Vampire and Lycan. Both and neither. The first of your kind. I don't. I can't. Michael's panic was rising. This isn't possible. This is a nightmare. I'm going to wake up, Anne. Blade grabbed his shoulder, forced eye contact. Listen to me. You're not dreaming. This is real. You're a hybrid now, vampire and werewolf genetics fighting for dominance in your system. My blood is keeping you stable, but I don't know for how long. You understand? Michael nodded shakily. Good. Now we need to get you somewhere safe, because the Lycans who did this to you are going to come back with friends. And the vampires, he glanced at Selene. Some of them are going to want you dead just for existing. Victor will want him in the mansion, Selene said. Under observation. Controlled conditions. Victor will want him dissected. That's not, Selene stopped, because they both knew it was true. Victor hadn't survived 600 years by being sentimental about scientific curiosities. We'll protect him. Will you? Blade stood, hauling Michael up with him. The kid was shaky but standing. You're a death dealer. You take orders from Victor. When he tells you to bring Michael in for examination, what are you going to do? Selene's jaw tightened. No answer. Because they both knew what she'd do, follow orders, like she'd been doing for decades. That's what I thought. Blade checked his weapons. Half his ammunition gone. 2 stakes left. Sword still intact. We need to move. Now. More Lycans will. Glass exploded above them. Lycans poured through skylights. Like a furry avalanche, dozens of them, far more than before. This wasn't a raid. This was an army. And standing in the warehouse entrance, backlit by streetlights, was a figure that made every Lycan in the room freeze in respect. Human-shaped. Tall. Aristocratic features. Dressed in worn leather that had seen decades of war. Eyes that held intelligence, pain, and absolute conviction. Lucian. Magnificent, the Lycan leader said, his voice cultured and weary. The Daywalker. The death dealer. And the first successful hybrid, all in one place. He smiled, and it was the saddest expression Blade had ever seen on a monster's face. Forgive the theatrics. But I needed you all together. Needed you to understand. Understand what? Blade's hand moved to his sword. That we're on the same side. Lucian stepped forward, and the Lycans parted for him like a sea. Victor has lied to you, Selene. About me. About the war. About everything. He looked at Michael. And you, young Corvin, carry the key to ending centuries of bloodshed. Not through death. Through evolution. I'm not on anyone's side, Blade said. Especially not monsters who turn innocent people against their will. Michael chose this, Lucian said. Didn't you, boy? Michael's face twisted with confusion and horror. There was a woman. She said I could be part of something greater. That my blood was special. That I could help end the war. Lies, Selene hissed. Lycans corrupting humans with false promises. Are they false? Lucian's eyes never left hers. Tell me, Selene. Tell Michael what Victor did to my kind. Why we've fought for 200 years. Tell him the truth. Selene said nothing. I didn't think so. Lucian gestured, and the Lycans tightened their circle. Not attacking. Surrounding. Here's what's going to happen. The 3 of you are coming with me. You're going to see what Victor doesn't want you to see. You're going to learn the truth about this war. And then, his smile turned. V killed him. But with your blood. It lunged. Blade met the charge head-on. They collided like freight trains, the impact sending shockwaves through the warehouse. The Lycan was strong, stronger than any he'd fought, but Blade had been killing monsters since before this thing was turned. He ducked under its claws, drove his sword through its shoulder, and twisted. The Lycan roared, backhanding him 20 feet into a concrete pillar. Blade felt ribs crack again, tasted blood. His healing factor kicked in, but slower than usual. Something was wrong. The fight was taking more out of him than it should. Selene, he coughed into the radio frequency she'd given him. The kid. How long does transformation take? Minutes. Maybe less. Her voice was strained. She was pinned down by 3 Lycans, using a forklift for cover. Why? Because if he completes it, we've got a hybrid on our hands. And if Lucian planned this? Michael's scream cut through the warehouse. Not human. Not Lycan. Something between and beyond. His body seized, muscles bulging, bones restructuring in impossible ways. His eyes snapped open, ice blue shot through with gold, vampire and Lycan both. Then he collapsed, convulsing. He's dying, Selene said. The strains are incompatible. He can't survive both. Unless he gets stabilizing blood. Blade understood, felt sick understanding. That's why they wanted me here. My blood is the buffer. The missing ingredient. The scarred Lycan leader was back on its feet, shoulder wound already healing. Smart, Daywalker. Lucian knew you'd figure it out. Knew you'd try to save the human. Your weakness. Your flaw. It laughed, a sound like grinding stone. You can let him die, or you can give him what he needs. Either way, Lucian wins. Blade's tactical mind ran scenarios. Let Michael die, Lucian loses his hybrid prototype, but an innocent dies. Save Michael with his blood. Lucian gets exactly what he wants, a template for creating more hybrids. No good options. Just varying degrees of nightmare. There's a third choice, Blade said, and shot the Lycan leader between the eyes. Silver nitrate rounds. 3 of them. The beast's head snapped back, and it dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Not dead, Lycans were tougher than that, but unconscious. Blade was on it in 2 strides, stake raised. Wait. Selene's voice cracked like a whip. We need it alive. For interrogation. To find Lucian's base. It's a trap. All of it. I know. But Michael is dying, and we don't have time to argue. She'd fought her way clear of the Lycans, was now kneeling beside the convulsing human. His heart rate is spiking. Fever's over 108. He's got minutes at most. Blade looked down at Michael Corvin. Young. Innocent. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong bloodline. Dying because monsters decided his genetic code was valuable. Story of Blade's life, really. You give him my blood, he becomes what Lucian wants, Blade said. A hybrid. Unstable, unpredictable, dangerous. Or we let him die, and Lucian finds another Corvinus descendant. Another test subject. Another victim. Selene met his eyes. At least this way, we control the variable. We watch him. Study him. Learn what Lucian's planning before it's too late. And if he goes rabid, starts killing, then we put him down. Her voice was cold. It's what we do. Blade knelt beside Michael, pulled out a silver knife, and made a shallow cut on his palm. His blood welled up, darker than normal human blood, but not the black ichor of full vampires. Hybrid blood. The bridge between 2 species that hated each other. This is a mistake, he said. Probably. Selene held Michael's mouth open. Do it anyway. Blade let his blood drip onto Michael's tongue. Once. Twice. 3 drops, no more. The effect was instantaneous. Michael's convulsions stopped. His breathing steadied. The fever broke in seconds, sweat evaporating like steam. His eyes opened. Still that eerie blue-gold combination, and focused on Blade with. Cold. Then you're going to help me kill him. Blade counted enemies. 30 Lycans. At least 5 more on the perimeter. Lucian himself, who radiated the kind of controlled lethality that came from centuries of survival. Michael, barely standing, powers unknown and unstable. Selene, conflicted, finger on her trigger but not firing. Bad odds. Even for him. And if we refuse? Blade asked. Then you die here. All of you. And I start over with the next Corvinus descendant. Lucian's voice was matter-of-fact. But I don't think you'll refuse. Because you're a hunter, Daywalker. And hunters recognize truth when they smell it. He inhaled deeply. You smell it now, don't you? The rot in Victor's coven. The lies in Selene's certainty. The wrongness of this entire war. Blade did smell it. Had been smelling it since he arrived. Something was off about Victor's story, about the coven's righteousness, about the neat division of vampire virtue versus Lycan savagery. 1 hour, Blade said. You get 1 hour to convince me. Then I make my own decision about who dies. Lucian's smile was genuine. 1 hour. That's all I need. He turned to his Lycans. Bring them. Gently. They're guests, not prisoners. As the Lycans closed in, Selene grabbed Blade's arm. This is insane. He's manipulating us. Maybe, Blade said. Or maybe we've been manipulated all along. Either way, we're about to find out. Michael stumbled between them, his hybrid eyes reflecting both species, belonging to neither. I just wanted to be a doctor, he whispered. Yeah, Blade said grimly. Welcome to the war. The Lycan stronghold wasn't the savage den Blade expected. It was an industrial complex, converted factory, reinforced walls, surveillance systems that would have made military contractors jealous. Organized. Disciplined. Strategic. Not the work of mindless beasts. Lucian led them through corridors lined with Lycan guards who watched with wary respect, not the feral aggression Blade associated with werewolves. These were soldiers. Warriors with a cause. It changed the equation in ways that made his instincts scream warnings. They entered what looked like a war room. Maps covered the walls, vampire strongholds marked in red, Lycan safe houses in blue, neutral zones in green. Strategic planning. Years of it. This wasn't a blood feud. This was a calculated insurgency. Sit, Lucian said, gesturing to chairs around a metal table. Please. Blade remained standing. So did Selene. Michael collapsed into a chair, shaking, his body still adjusting to competing genetic codes tearing him apart and rebuilding him cell by cell. Victor told you we're animals, Lucian began, pouring amber liquid into glasses. Beasts who forgot our place. Creatures who deserve to be hunted and slaughtered. Did he mention that we were slaves first? Selene's gun twitched. Lycans have always been the enemy. Since Marcus and William. Since Victor made us the enemy. Lucian's voice could have cut stone. William Corvinus was a monster, yes. Uncontrollable. Dangerous. But his bite didn't pass to humans initially. Do you know who weaponized it? Who bred Lycans specifically to serve as daylight guardians for vampire nobility? Silence. Victor. Lucian downed his drink in one swallow. 2 centuries ago, we were the coven slaves. Guardians. Protectors. We couldn't transform at will, the early strains were crude, painful. Victor's scientists refined the virus, made it more controllable, more useful. We were property. Tools that happened to breathe. That's impossible, Selene said, but her voice lacked conviction. Victor has ruled with honor for 600 years. Has he? Lucian pulled out a leather-bound journal, tossed it on the table. That's my diary. 200 years of servitude, punishment, and watching my people treated like animals while we protected the very vampires who enslaved us. Blade picked up the journal, flipped through pages. Dates. Names. Accounts of brutality that made his jaw tighten. Lycans executed for minor infractions. Families separated. Children taken and trained as weapons. If it was real, it was genocide wrapped in aristocratic civility. Could be fake, Blade said. Could be. Lucian met his eyes. Or you could ask Selene about the lower dungeons. The ones beneath Victor's mansion. The cells with silver bars and chains. Ask her what they're for, if we've always been free enemies. Selene said nothing. But her hand had moved away from her weapon. There was a woman, Lucian continued, his voice softening. Sonia. Victor's daughter. Vampire aristocracy. She saw us as more than beasts. Saw me as more than a slave. His expression turned to barely controlled rage. We fell in love. Planned to run, to escape the coven's cruelty. Victor discovered us. Do you know what he did? Lucian, Selene's voice was a warning. He executed her. His own daughter. Burned her in sunlight while I watched, chained in silver, unable to save her. Lucian's hands clenched on the table. That's when the war began. Not because we're monsters. Because we refuse to be slaves anymore. Michael looked like he might vomit. Jesus Christ. Victor's God doesn't live in this world, Lucian said. Only power. Only control. He killed his daughter to maintain order. What do you think he'll do to you, young hybrid? When he's finished studying you? Blade's tactical mind was recalculating everything. If Lucian was telling the truth. And the journal, the Stronghold's organization, the disciplined troops all. Into coming here. You're holding Michael's life hostage to get what you want. I'm fighting a war, Lucian said simply. Sometimes that requires ugly choices. I've heard that before. From a lot of monsters. Then judge me after you see Victor's dungeons. After you know the truth. Lucian gestured to his guards. Erica will take you there. She knows the secret passages into the mansion. The routes Victor doesn't monitor. See for yourself what kind of man you're protecting. I'm not protecting him, Blade said. I'm not protecting anyone. I'm here to end threats and go home. Then end Victor. He's the threat. The source of all this bloodshed. Lucian's voice dropped. And if you do, I promise, on Sonia's memory, I'll send you home. Blade studied him. Centuries-old Lycan leader. Brilliant tactician. Grieving lover turned revolutionary. Either the greatest manipulator Blade had ever met, or a man pushed past breaking by genuine atrocity. No way to know which without evidence. Fine, Blade said. Show me these dungeons. Show me proof. Then I'll decide who dies. Lucian nodded to a woman in the corner, young, vampire, with the kind of nervous energy that came from living a double life. Erica, presumably. Victor's mistress and Lucian's spy. She'll take you tonight, Lucian said. But Selene stays here. Insurance. No. Selene's voice was steel. If you're telling the truth, I need to see it. I need to know what I've been serving. And if Victor discovers you in the dungeons, you'll be executed as a traitor. Lucian's tone was gentle. Let the Daywalker go. He's expendable to Victor. You're not. Not yet. Blade hated that the logic was sound. Hated that he was about to walk into another trap with nothing but a vampire spy's word and his own instincts to guide him. But Michael was dying. Selene's world was crumbling. And somewhere in this city, Victor sat on a throne built on lies, if Lucian was telling the truth. Only one way to find out. I go alone, Blade said. Suggested he might be, then the war wasn't vampire nobility versus savage Lycans. It was oppressor versus oppressed. Slaveholder versus rebellion. Changed everything. Why turn Michael? Blade asked. If you want freedom, why create a hybrid? Because Victor will never let us go. Never negotiate. Never stop hunting us. Lucian stood, pacing. We needed an advantage. Something that could walk in daylight, fight with vampire strength and Lycan ferocity, survive weapons designed to kill either species. We needed evolution. You needed a weapon, Blade corrected. Yes. Lucian didn't flinch from it. A weapon to end the war. Michael's Corvinus bloodline can accept both strains without rejection, with the right stabilizing agent. He looked at Blade. Your blood. The bridge we've been searching for. So you used him. Turned him without consent. I gave him a choice. Lucian's voice was tired. Michael came to us. A woman named Erica, Victor's current mistress, told him about the war, about the Corvinus legacy, about the chance to be something greater. He chose this. Michael's head snapped up. That's not. I didn't understand what I was choosing. I thought I was helping end violence, not becoming a. He stared at his hands, which were shifting between human and clawed. A monster. You're not a monster, Lucian said gently. You're the future. If you survive. If. Selene's voice was sharp. The transformation is incomplete. Michael's body is rejecting both strains even with the Daywalker's blood. He needs more. Regular infusions until his system stabilizes. Weeks, maybe months. Lucian's expression was grim. Without it, he'll tear himself apart from the inside. Painfully. Slowly. Blade's blood went cold. You're saying I have to keep feeding him my blood or he dies? Yes. That's extortion. That's reality. Lucian leaned forward. But here's what I'm offering in return, help me kill Victor. End his reign of terror. Free the Lycans from persecution. And I'll. He's lying, she repeated, but the gun wavered. Maybe. Or maybe you've been lied to for so long you can't recognize truth. Blade moved slowly, carefully. Either way, shooting him doesn't give us answers. It just makes us murderers. We're already murderers, Selene whispered. I've killed hundreds of Lycans. If what he's saying is true, if they were just fighting for freedom, her gun dropped. Oh God! What have I done? Michael suddenly convulsed, crying out. His skin rippled, bones cracking audibly. The transformation was trying to complete itself, and his body was losing the fight. Lucian moved instantly, pulling out a syringe filled with dark liquid. Suppressant. It'll buy him hours, maybe a day. But he needs your blood, Daywalker. Soon. Blade caught Michael as he collapsed, felt the kid's fever burning through his shirt. The hybrid was dying. Slowly. Painfully. And Blade was the only thing keeping him alive. Hostage without chains. You're good, Blade said to Lucian. This whole setup. The journal. The revelation. Michael's condition. All of it designed to make me your weapon against Victor. Yes, Lucian agreed. But that doesn't make it less true. Victor is a monster. He needs to die. And you're the only one who can do it. Why? You've got an army. Weapons. Resources. Because Victor is 600 years old, a master combatant, and paranoid enough to survive every assassination attempt for centuries. Lucian's expression was haunted. I've tried 43 times. Failed 43 times. He knows my tactics, my strategies, my every move before I make it. He gestured to Blade. But you? You're unknown. Unpredictable. Not bound by this world's rules or alliances. You're the variable he can't calculate. Blade set Michael down carefully, stood, and faced Lucian. Let's say I believe you. Let's say Victor's everything you claim. That still doesn't make you the good guy. You turned an innocent man into a hybrid against his will. You manipulated us. No backup. No communication. I see the dungeons, I come back, I make my decision. Agreed. Lucian extended his hand. Blade didn't take it. If this is a setup, if you're using me to get inside Victor's defenses, I'll kill you. And your entire army. Are we clear? Perfectly. Lucian lowered his hand. Erica will meet you at midnight. The passages open then. Don't be late. As Blade turned to leave, Selene caught his arm. If it's true, she whispered, if Victor really killed my family. Then we deal with it, Blade said. But we deal with it smart. Not emotional. Can you do that? She nodded, but her eyes were distant. Already seeing her entire life through a different lens. Already questioning every kill, every order, every belief she'd held for decades. Blade knew that look. He'd worn it himself, years ago, when he discovered the full extent of what vampires had done to him, to his mother, to countless innocents. The look of someone whose world had just died. He left her there, followed Erica into the night, and prepared to learn whether he'd been played by a master manipulator or recruited into a righteous war. Either way, blood would be spilled before dawn. Midnight found Blade crouched on a rooftop 3 blocks from Victor's mansion, watching Erica approach through the shadows. She moved with vampire grace but human nervousness, a spy playing both sides, terrified of discovery. You're late, Blade said without turning. She startled anyway. How did you? Heartbeat. Perfume. Footsteps. Blade dropped from the roof, landing silently beside her. You're scared. That makes you a liability. I've been Victor's mistress for 3 years. Erica's voice shook. I've watched him execute vampires for trivial offenses. I've seen the dungeons. I know what he is. She met his eyes. I'm terrified. But I'm here. Fair enough. Fear with action was better than courage without it. Show me the way, Blade said. They moved through the city like ghosts, avoiding death dealer patrols and Lycan scouts both. The war had divided the city into invisible territories. Vampire streets where Lycans feared to tread, industrial zones where death dealers never ventured, neutral grounds where both sides maintained uneasy truces. Erica led him to an ancient sewer entrance, half hidden behind centuries of urban development. The mansion was built on Roman ruins. The original passages go down 30 feet. Victor uses them to move during daytime emergencies. She pulled out a key, old iron, ornate. This opens the lower dungeons. Lucian stole it from Victor's personal chamber 6 months ago. How? I took it. Copied it. Returned it before dawn. Her smile was bitter. Victor never suspected his loyal mistress would betray him. They descended into darkness that smelled of stone and old blood. Blade's enhanced vision cut through the black, revealing walls carved with ancient script, warnings in languages dead before English was born. The vampires hadn't built this place. They'd claimed it. Probably killed whoever lived here first. Standard vampire behavior. The passage opened into a chamber lined with cells. Not modern prison cells, medieval torture. You serve a monster, Blade said. You torture innocents. You call it justice. He advanced. I've killed 1,000 vampires like you. You want to be 1001. The leader fired. Silver rounds. Blade twisted, felt one graze his shoulder, returned fire with his beretta. The death dealer's chest exploded, silver nitrate doing its work. The last 2 broke and ran. Blade let them. They'd report to Victor. Good. Time to stop hiding and start forcing moves. "Erica," he called. "You still alive?" She emerged, pale even for a vampire. "That was, you just killed death dealers. Victor will execute you on sight." "He'll try." Blade holstered his weapon. "I've seen enough." Lucian was telling the truth. This place is a nightmare, and Victor's the architect. "What will you do?" "End him." Blade turned toward the exit. "But first I need to know about Marcus. Where he's sleeping. How to wake him. Everything." "I told you, I don't." "Then find out." Blade grabbed her arm, not gentle. "You're a spy." "Spy. Get me information on Marcus's location, Victor's plans, everything you can access. You've got 24 hours. And if I can't? Then Victor wins. The Lycans die. Michael Corvin dies. And I'm stuck in this world forever fighting a war that should have ended centuries ago." He released her. "Your choice." Erica nodded shakily. "I'll try. But if Victor suspects me. He already does. Guards don't patrol the dungeons unless someone tipped them off." Blade's eyes narrowed. "Which means either Lucian sold us out, or there's another player we don't know about." "Con," Erica whispered. "Victor's administrator. He's been questioning my loyalty for months. If he's watching me, if he saw us. Then we're on a clock." Blade started moving. "Get back to the mansion. Act normal. Find the information. Meet me tomorrow night, same place." "Where will you be?" "Protecting Michael. Making sure Lucian keeps his word." Blade paused at the passage entrance. "And if this is all a chambers. Silver bars. Chains embedded in stone. Dried blood on every surface. And something worse, the smell of recent use." "Jesus," Blade whispered. 30 cells, Erica said quietly. "Victor keeps them full. Lycans mostly. But also vampires who question him. Humans who learn too much. Anyone who threatens his control." She pointed to the occupied cells. "Look." Blade looked. The prisoners were Lycans, but not the fierce warriors he'd fought. These were emaciated, broken, some barely alive. Silver chains burned their flesh constantly, preventing healing. Some had been here for years, judging by the scarring and muscle atrophy. One raised its head, female, young, eyes full of pain and defiance. "Another vampire," she rasped. "Come to watch us suffer?" "No." Blade approached the cell, examined the lock. Silver-plated. Reinforced. Designed to contain supernatural strength. "How long have you been here?" 3 years. Maybe 4. Time. She laughed, a broken sound. Time stops meaning anything after the first 100 lashes. Lashes? Victor's favorite punishment. Silver whips. 20 lashes for speaking out of turn. 50 for attempting escape. 100 for questioning his authority. She gestured to her back, and Blade saw the scars, thick, layered, deliberately inflicted to maximize pain without killing. Torture. Systematic. Calculated. Erica moved to another cell. "This one's been here 7 years. Victor's scientists experiment on him. Testing silver tolerance. Studying regeneration limits. Seeing how much pain a Lycan can endure before breaking." The Lycan in question was barely recognizable as humanoid. Twisted. Deformed. Whatever they'd done to him had left him more monster than man. "And this," Erica said, voice hollow, "is what Lucian was enslaved to. What we all serve." Blade's jaw clenched. He'd seen torture before. Had been tortured himself. But this was industrial-scale cruelty. This was genocide disguised as justice. Why? He asked. What's set up, if I find out you or Lucian played me? I know, Erica said quietly. You'll kill us all. Glad we understand each other. Blade made it back to the Lycan stronghold as dawn threatened the horizon. Guards let him pass without challenge, Lucian's orders, presumably. He found the war room where he'd left Selene and Michael. Selene sat in the same chair, staring at Lucian's journal. She hadn't moved in hours. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face a mask of barely controlled devastation. Michael was worse. Fever had spiked again. His transformation was accelerating, body trying to complete what the Lycan bite started. Lucian stood over him, monitoring vitals, looking grim. Blade. Lucian's voice was urgent. He's deteriorating faster than expected. My suppressants aren't working anymore. He needs your blood. Now. Blade knelt beside Michael, pulled out his knife, made a fresh cut. This time he let Michael drink directly, 3, 4, 5 swallows. The kid's eyes snapped open, fever breaking, body stabilizing. How long? Michael gasped. Until you need more. 6 hours. Maybe 8. Lucian's expression was apologetic. I'm sorry. We didn't anticipate this. The hybrid transformation is more aggressive than our models predicted. Models. Michael laughed bitterly. You experimented on me. Turned me into your lab rat. Yes. Lucian didn't flinch from it. And I'm sorry. But we're past apologies now. We need to focus on keeping you alive. Blade looked at Selene. You okay? No. Her voice was hollow. I read the journal. All of it. 200 years of slavery, torture, murder. Victor's crimes documented in Lucian's hand. She finally looked up. I've served a monster for a century. Killed for him. Destroyed families for him. I'm a tool of genocide. You didn't know. That's not an excuse. Selene stood, and there was something dangerous in her eyes. Something broken and newly forged. I want to see the dungeons. I want to see what Victor's been hiding. I want proof. I've got proof. Blade pulled out photos he'd taken on a disposable camera Erica provided. Cells. Prisoners. Torture implements. The evidence of systematic atrocity. Victor's running a concentration camp beneath his mansion. Lycans who've been tortured for years. Some for decades. Selene stared at the photos. Her hands trembled. That's Kareth. I captured her 3 years ago. Victor said she'd been executed. He lied. He's been lying about everything. Then I'll kill him myself. Selene's fangs extended. I'll stake him. Burn him. End his. No. Blade's voice was firm. You go after him emotional, you die. Victor's 600 years old. He survived assassination attempts from people better than us. We need strategy. Planning. Coordination. He's right, Lucian said. Victor suspects something's wrong. The death dealers you killed reported in before they died. He knows you were in the dungeons. He'll be on high alert, fortifying his defenses, preparing for attack. He spread maps on the table. We've got one chance. One window when Victor's vulnerable. When? Blade asked. 3 nights from now. The awakening ceremony. Victor's term as elder ends. Amelia takes over. During the transition, Victor will be in the chamber with the other elders, minimal guard, performing the ritual. Lucian pointed to a location on the map. If we strike then, we can kill him before he can mobilize the entire coven. What about the other elders? Selene asked. Amelia's no saint. She'll defend Victor. Let me handle Amelia, Lucian said. I've been negotiating with her in secret. She's tired of Victor's extremism. Tired of the war. If I can convince her that peace is possible, that the Corvinus hybrid represents evolution rather than threat. He looked at Michael. She might stand aside. Lot of ifs in that plan, Blade observed. It's the best we have. Lucian met his eyes. 3 nights. You'll have Michael stabilized by then, at least enough to. Victor's endgame. Control. Fear. Dominance. Erica leaned against the wall. Victor believes vampires are superior. That humans and Lycans exist to serve or die. He's been building towards something, a final solution to the Lycan problem. Lucian's resistance is the only thing stopping him. What kind of solution? I don't know. He doesn't discuss it with anyone except his inner council. She hesitated. But I've heard whispers. Something about awakening Marcus. Using the first vampire's power to exterminate every Lycan on Earth. Blade processed that. Marcus, the bat-bitten Corvinus son, original vampire, supposedly imprisoned or sleeping. If Victor planned to wake him, use him as a weapon. Where is Marcus? I don't know. Victor guards that secret obsessively. Erica pushed off the wall. But if he succeeds, if Marcus awakens and serves him, Lucian's people are extinct. Every Lycan, everywhere. Dead. A sound echoed through the dungeon. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Coming fast. We've been discovered, Erica hissed. Victor's guards. Hide. Blade pushed her into shadows. I'll handle this. 6 death dealers emerged from the passage, weapons drawn. The leader, a tall vampire Blade recognized from the mansion, sneered. The Daywalker. Trespassing in forbidden territory. Victor will be disappointed. Victor's been disappointing me since I got here, Blade said. These cells. The torture. The genocide. That's your idea of justice? That's order, the death dealer said. Lycans are animals. They serve or they suffer. You, apparently, need to learn the same lesson. He gestured. Take him. Alive if possible. Dead if necessary. They came at him as a unit, trained, coordinated, lethal. Blade met them with cold efficiency. His sword took the first one's head. His stake punched through the second's heart. The third got his boot in its face, skull cracking against stone. The remaining 3 hesitated. Good. Fear made them sloppy. Survive a few hours without your blood. We assault the mansion during the ceremony. You and Selene get to Victor. I handle Amelia and Marcus's containment. We end this war in 1 night. Blade studied the maps, the timelines, the guard rotations Lucian had meticulously documented. The plan was ambitious. Probably suicidal. But it might work. If Victor didn't see it coming. If Amelia agreed to stand down. If Michael survived long enough to matter. If Lucian was actually on their side and not playing both factions toward mutual destruction. Too many ifs. But Blade had operated on worse odds. Fine, he said. 3 nights. But I'm bringing insurance. What kind of insurance? Blade smiled coldly. The kind that burns vampire mansions to the ground if things go wrong. I don't trust you, Lucian. I don't trust Victor. I barely trust Selene. So I'm preparing for every possible outcome. Including the one where I have to kill everyone in this city and burn it to ash. Lucian's expression was unreadable. You really are your world's weapon, aren't you? Yeah, Blade said. And weapons don't take sides. They just kill what they're pointed at. He looked at each of them in turn. So make sure I'm pointed at the right target. Michael groaned, fever spiking again. Blade cut his palm once more, let the kid drink. Chains of blood and necessity, binding him to this world's war whether he wanted them or not. 3 nights until the assault. 3 nights to prepare. 3 nights to figure out who really deserved to die. 2 nights before the assault, Blade stood on the stronghold's roof watching the city burn with invisible war. Somewhere out there, Victor was fortifying defenses. Amelia's convoy was approaching for the awakening ceremony. Marcus slept in whatever tomb held him, unaware that his existence had become the fulcrum of genocide. And Michael Corvin was dying. Blade had given him blood 6 times in 36 hours. Each time, the effect lasted shorter. 6 hours became 4. 4 became 2. Now Michael was convulsing again, barely an hour after the last feeding, his hybrid genetics tearing him apart faster than even Blade's blood could repair. "It's not working," Lucian said grimly, monitoring Michael's vitals. "The competing strains are accelerating. Vampire and Lycan genetics are at war in his cells. Your blood slows it, but doesn't stop it. At this rate, he's got 48 hours. Maybe less." Selene paced like a caged predator. She'd been different since seeing the photos. Colder, harder, something fundamental broken and reforged into a weapon pointed at Victor's throat. "Then we move up the timeline. Attack tomorrow night before Michael dies." "Impossible," Lucian said. "Amelia hasn't arrived. Victor's guard rotation doesn't shift until the ceremony. We'd be walking into a fortified position with no advantages. Then Michael dies for nothing." Selene's voice was ice. "Everything we've risked, everything we've learned, wasted because we waited too long." "There might be another way," Erica said from the doorway. She looked exhausted, terrified, but triumphant. "I found it. Marcus's location. And Victor's plan." Everyone turned. Blade moved to her in 3 strides. "Talk. Marcus isn't imprisoned. He's sleeping in a suspension chamber beneath the mansion, older than the dungeons, older than the building itself. Roman construction. Victor's kept him there for centuries, using his blood to maintain elder dominance." Erica pulled out stolen documents. "But that's not the worst part. Victor's planning to wake him. Not during the ceremony, before it. Tomorrow night." "Why?" Lucian demanded. "Because he knows we're coming. Khan's been feeding him intelligence, about Blade, about Michael, about our alliance. Victor's accelerating his endgame." She spread the documents on the table. "He's going to wake Marcus, bind him through blood covenant, and use him to exterminate every Lycan on Earth. He's calling it the Purge Protocol." Blade scanned the documents. Technical specs. Blood work analysis. Maps showing Lycan populations worldwide. And a timeline that made his blood run cold. 48 hours, he read. Once Marcus wakes, Victor gives him 48 hours to hunt down and kill every Lycan he can sense through their shared bloodline. Then Marcus goes back to sleep, and Victor rules unopposed for another 600 years. "Genocide," Selene whispered. "He's planning genocide. He's been planning it for decades." Lucian's hands clenched. This was always his endgame. The torture, the experiments, the systematic extermination, all preparation for the moment he could unleash Marcus without consequences. "There's more," Erica said. "Victor knows about Michael. About the hybrid. He thinks it's a Lycan weapon, proof that Lucian's trying to create an army of Daywalkers. He's using it to justify the purge to the other elders." "Amelia," Blade said. "Will she support this?" "She won't have a choice. By the time she arrives, Marcus will be awake and bound to Victor. She'll either fall in line or die." Blade looked at Michael, convulsing on the medical table. Kid was 19. Wanted to be a doctor. Now he was patient zero in a war that predated his grandparents, dying because his genetic code made him valuable to monsters. We move tonight, Blade said. That's suicide, Lucian protested. We're not ready. The assault plan needs. The plan's dead. Victor knows we're coming. He's fortifying. Every hour we wait makes success less likely. Blade started checking weapons. We hit the mansion now. Before Victor wakes Marcus. Before Amelia arrives. While they're still unprepared for immediate assault. With what forces? Lucian gestured around. I've got 50 Lycans combat ready. Victor has 300 death dealers, plus whatever ancient powers he's kept hidden for centuries. We're outnumbered 6 to 1. Then we don't fight them all. We target Victor. Surgical strike. In and out before they mobilize. Blade loaded his Beretta with fresh silver rounds. Selene knows the mansion layout. Erica knows the secret passages. I'm the unknown variable Victor can't predict. We've got advantages. And Michael? Selene asked quietly. He can barely stand. Can't fight. Won't survive without constant blood infusions. He comes with us. Blade met her eyes. We bring him to Marcus's chamber. The original vampire. The source of the bloodline. Maybe Marcus's blood can stabilize him where mine failed. That's insane, Lucian said. Marcus will kill him on sight. Maybe. Or maybe Marcus sees value in a stable hybrid. Either way, Michael dies tonight no matter what we do. This gives him a chance. Michael raised his head weakly. His eyes were more gold than blue now, Lycan genetics winning the war inside him. Do it. I don't want to die here. Like this. If I'm going out, I want it to mean something. Selene's expression softened. She'd been where Michael was. Used by vampires, lied to, turned into a weapon. She saw herself in him. All right, she said. We go tonight. But we do it smart. Small team. Minimal engagement. We're not trying to win the war, just cut off its head. Lucian stared at them like they'd lost their minds. Then he laughed, a sound without humor. You're all insane. You know that? Worked so far, Blade said. Fine. I'll mobilize what forces I can. Create a distraction on the west perimeter. Pull death dealers away from the main structure. Lucian started issuing orders to his.
But first, Victor. Selene froze. Guards. 20 feet ahead. 4 death dealers. Can we avoid them? Not without backtracking. She checked her weapons. We go through. The death dealers died fast. Blade took 2 with his sword before they could raise weapons. Selene's precise gunfire dropped the 3rd. The 4th managed to sound an alarm before Erica's stake found its heart. Klaxon screamed through the mansion. So much for stealth. Move. Blade grabbed Michael, slung him over his shoulder. The kid weighed nothing, the transformation was burning through muscle and fat, consuming him from inside. They had minutes. They ran through corridors that became progressively older, stone replacing wood, torchlight replacing electricity. The mansion's heart was ancient, foundation built on Roman ruins built on something older still. Vampires hadn't created this place. They'd infested it. The chamber doors were massive. Bronze inscribed with warnings in dead languages. Blood seals glowed red, pulsing with Victor's signature. Blade could feel the power radiating from them, old magic mixed with vampire biology. How do we break it? Selene asked. With this. Blade cut his palm, pressed bloody hand to the seal. His hybrid blood, vampire and human mixed, confused the ward. It flickered, uncertain whether to accept or reject him. Then it shattered. The doors groaned open, revealing a chamber that took Blade's breath away. Suspended in the center was a sarcophagus of glass and silver, and inside, Marcus, the first vampire. Bat-bitten Corvinus' son. Progenitor of a species that had fed on humanity for millennia. He was beautiful in the way predators were beautiful, perfect features, inhuman grace, wings folded against his back like a dark angel. And he was waking up. No, Erica whispered. Victor's already started the protocol. We're too late. Marcus's eyes opened, pure black, no white, no iris. Just endless hunger given form. His gaze fixed on them, and Blade felt the weight of ancient intelligence assessing, calculating, recognizing threats. Intruders, Marcus said, his voice like wind through tombs. In my sanctum. During my awakening. He smiled, fangs extending. How delightfully unexpected. Marcus Corvinus, Blade said, lowering Michael carefully. We need to talk. Curious. A Daywalker. How novel. Marcus's attention shifted to Michael. And a hybrid. Vampire and Lycan both. Impossible. Unless. His expression changed. Understanding dawned. Lucian. He actually succeeded. With my blood as the bridge, Blade said. Kids dying. Competing strains tearing him apart. You're the original vampire. Maybe you can stabilize him. Why would I? Marcus floated from his sarcophagus, gravity clearly optional for him. This hybrid represents everything wrong with my brother William's legacy. Lycan corruption infecting vampire purity. Or evolution, Blade countered. A hybrid immune to both species' weaknesses. Stronger than either alone. The future of your bloodline. The future. Marcus laughed. Victor speaks of the past. Lucian speaks of revolution. You speak of the future. Everyone wants to reshape the world in their image. He circled Michael like a predator sizing up prey. And yet this boy simply wants to live. How refreshingly honest. Will you help him? Selene asked. Marcus studied her. Selene. Victor's perfect soldier. Death dealer extraordinaire. Now allied with Lycans and a Daywalker, seeking my aid. His smile widened. Victor will be devastated when he learns of your betrayal. Victor's a monster, Selene said flatly. I serve monsters no more. How noble. Marcus's attention returned to Blade. You interest me, Daywalker. You're not from this world, I can taste it on you. Different sun. Different evolutionary path. And yet here you are, inserted into our ancient conflict like a variable no one predicted.
Lieutenants. But the assault team is small. You, Selene, Erica for navigation. That's it. What about Michael? I'll carry him. Selene holstered her weapons. Get him to Marcus's chamber. Pray your theory works. And you? Blade asked Lucian. Where will you be? Leading the distraction. Keeping as many death dealers occupied as possible. Lucian's expression was haunted. And if you fail, if Victor survives this night, I'll detonate the charges I've planted throughout the mansion. Bring the whole structure down. Victor, Marcus, everyone dies. Including us, Blade observed. Including everyone. Lucian met his eyes. I've been fighting this war for 200 years. If I can't win, I'll settle for taking Victor with me into hell. Revolutionary or fanatic. Sometimes there wasn't a difference. You've got 2 hours, Blade said. Make them count. They approached the mansion as midnight turned to the darkest hour before dawn. 3 vampires and a dying hybrid, armed with stolen intelligence and desperate conviction. Lucian's distraction had worked. The west perimeter erupted with gunfire and Lycan howls, drawing death dealers like moths to flame. Erica led them through passages that shouldn't exist, Roman architecture hidden behind Victorian facades, sealed tunnels that bypassed modern security. She moved with the nervous energy of someone who knew execution awaited if they were caught. Marcus's chamber is below the throne room, she whispered. 3 levels down. Ancient wards protected, blood seals keyed to Victor's genetic signature. You'll need to fight through them. I've broken blood seals before, Blade said. Not ones created by 600-year-old vampires. They emerged into a corridor lined with portraits of vampire elders, Marcus, Victor, Amelia, others whose names were lost to time. Beautiful faces hiding monster souls. Blade wanted to burn every painting, every artifact, every piece of aristocratic pretension these leeches had accumulated. Victor's face was a mask of controlled rage. 600 years of experience keeping his emotions leashed even as betrayal crashed around him. Marcus. After all I've done to protect you, to preserve your rest, you align with these traitors? Protect? Marcus laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber like breaking glass. You imprisoned me, brother. Fed on my blood for centuries. Used me as a battery to power your pathetic dynasty. His wings unfurled, massive, leathery, tipped with claws. I'm done sleeping. And the Daywalker convinced you of this? Victor's eyes locked on Blade. An outsider who understands nothing of our world, our history, our necessary order. He understands what you are, Blade said, weapons ready. A tyrant. A torturer. A monster who calls genocide justice. Justice. Victor's smile was cold. You've been in my world for days and presumed to lecture me on justice. I've maintained order for 6 centuries. Kept vampires safe. Prevented chaos. And yes, I've been ruthless when necessary. That's what survival requires. You murdered your own daughter, Selene's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Sonia. You burned her alive for loving a Lycan. Victor's expression flickered. Selene. Of all my disappointments, you wound me most deeply. I saved you. Raised you. Gave you purpose. And this is how you repay me. You murdered my family. Her voice shook with barely contained fury. Made me think Lycans killed them. Turned me into your weapon. Everything about you is a lie. Your family was collateral damage in a necessary purge. I spared you because I saw potential. Victor gestured to the death dealers. I gave you everything. And you threw it away for lies told by Lycans and an interdimensional mongrel. They're not lies, Erica said, stepping forward. I've seen the dungeons. The torture chambers. The experiments. You're planning genocide, Victor. The Purge Protocol. Using Marcus to exterminate every Lycan on Earth. Victors. Even against supernatural opponents. Daywalker, Victor said, turning to face him. Let's see if you're as dangerous as reported. They collided. Victor was fast, faster than any vampire Blade had fought. His attacks were precise, economical, each strike designed to kill or disable. He fought like someone who'd survived countless assassination attempts through skill rather than luck. Blade matched him move for move. His sword rang against Victor's claws. The elder had shifted partially, enhancing strength and speed. They exchanged blows at superhuman velocity, each testing the other's defenses, looking for openings. You're good, Victor admitted, blocking a decapitation strike. Well trained. Experienced. But you lack something crucial. He caught Blade's sword arm, twisted, felt bones grind. You lack the weight of centuries. The experience of endless conflict. The patience of true immortality. I've got something better, Blade growled, and headbutt him. Victor staggered. Blade pressed the advantage, driving his stake toward the elder's heart. Victor twisted at the last second, the stake scraped ribs instead of piercing the heart. He retaliated with a backhand that sent Blade crashing through a stone column. Blade's ribs cracked. Healing factor kicked in, but slower than usual. He'd been fighting non-stop for hours, burning through energy reserves. He was tough, but not invincible. Victor advanced, calm and measured. You're weakening. Your hybrid physiology gives you advantages, but also limitations. You burn brighter but shorter than true vampires. He pulled out the stake still lodged in his ribs, didn't even flinch. I can fight for days without rest. Can you? Blade pushed to his feet, spat blood. Let's find out. They clashed again. This time Victor was more aggressive, pressing his advantage. Blade gave ground, using the terrain. Scattered weapons, fallen bodies, architectural features. He fought smart, conserving energy, letting Victor's confidence work. Eyes narrowed. Erica. My loyal mistress. Or so I believed. Khan was right about you. Khan stepped forward, smug. I've been documenting her betrayals for months, my lord. Every secret meeting with Lucian. Every stolen document. Every compromised security protocol. I have evidence of everything. Then why didn't you report her sooner? Blade asked. Because I wanted to see how deep the rot went. Victor's voice was ice. How many of my own people would betray me? How extensive Lucian's network had become. He looked at each of them in turn. Now I know. Now I can excise the cancer completely. You can try, Marcus said. But I think you'll find this cancer has teeth. Victor raised his hand, and the death dealers opened fire. Blade moved. The world slowed to tactical frames as his enhanced reflexes processed threats, 50 armed vampires, overlapping fields of fire, silver rounds designed to kill anything supernatural. He dove behind Marcus's sarcophagus, using it as cover, returning fire with his Beretta. 3 death dealers dropped, silver nitrate burning through their hearts. Selene was already in motion, her combat training making her a blur of lethal precision. She moved through the death dealers like death personified, each shot perfectly placed, each movement calculated to maximize damage while minimizing exposure. 6 vampires fell in as many seconds. Marcus didn't bother with weapons. He tore through death dealers with claws and fangs, his ancient power making the elite warriors look like children. His wings buffeted them, sending bodies flying into walls hard enough to shatter bone. When one managed to land a silver round in his shoulder, Marcus just laughed and ripped the vampire's head off. But there were too many. For every one they killed, 2 more pressed in. Victor hadn't survived 6 centuries by being stupid, he'd brought overwhelming force. Erica. Blade shouted. Get Michael out of here. She grabbed the hybrid, still weak but conscious now. Marcus's blood working miracles, and dragged him toward a side passage. 2 death dealers moved to intercept. Blade put silver rounds through both their skulls. You can't win this, Victor called over the chaos. Even with Marcus. Even with your Daywalker tricks. You're in my stronghold, surrounded by my army. Surrender now, and I'll make your deaths quick. Pass, Blade said, and threw a UV grenade. The explosion of ultraviolet light caught a dozen death dealers, their screams echoing as their flesh burned. Not enough to kill them, these vampires were old, tough, but enough to blind and disorient. Blade used the chaos to advance, his sword cutting through disoriented enemies like paper. Selene fought her way to his side. We can't hold this position. There are hundreds more death dealers in the mansion. Eventually they'll overwhelm us. Then we don't hold. Blade grabbed her arm. We advance. Target Victor. Kill him, this is over. He's 600 years old. The strongest vampire in the coven. Good. Been too long since I killed something that actually challenged me. They pushed forward through the melee. Marcus was tearing a bloody path toward Victor, ancient rage given form, but Khan and a dozen elite death dealers intercepted him. They moved with supernatural coordination, silver nets and reinforced chains designed specifically to contain elder-level threats. You prepared for me, Marcus observed as chains wrapped around his wings. How thorough. Victor anticipated everything, Khan said, driving a silver stake toward Marcus's heart. Marcus caught it bare-handed, flesh sizzling. Not everything. He pulled Khan close and bit his throat out in one savage motion. The administrator collapsed, choking on his own blood, as Marcus tore free of the chains. Blade reached Victor as the Elder dispatched two Lycans who'd broken through from Lucian's distraction force. The ancient vampire moved with casual efficiency, centuries of combat experience making him deadly. Against him, Selene appeared from the chaos, firing point-blank into Victor's back. Silver rounds punched through his shoulder blade, staggering him. Victor spun, fury replacing composure for the first time. Traitor! He lunged at her. Blade intercepted, sword taking Victor's extended arm at the elbow. The limb fell, still twitching. Victor screamed, not in pain, but in rage. Ancient regeneration was already working, flesh knitting, but slowly. The silver in Selene's rounds was poisoning the wound. You dare, Victor's words cut off as Marcus slammed into him from above. The two elders crashed to the floor in a tangle of claws and fangs. Marcus had broken free of the death dealers, leaving a trail of corpses behind him. Now he and Victor fought with the fury of centuries-old grievances made physical. Brother! Marcus screamed. You imprisoned me. Used me. Treated me like property. You were a weapon. Victor roared back. Too dangerous to let roam free. Too powerful to destroy. So you made me a slave. Marcus's claws opened Victor's throat. Blood sprayed. Just like you enslaved the Lycans. Just like you enslave everyone who threatens your control. The death dealers were falling back, confused. Their elder, their god, was losing. Being torn apart by the first vampire, the progenitor of their entire species. The careful hierarchy Victor had maintained for centuries was crumbling in real time. Some fled. Others stood frozen. A few tried to intervene and died for their loyalty. Blade watched it happen with cold satisfaction. Let the monsters destroy each other. Let their empire burn. He'd clean up whoever survived. But then he saw Michael. The hybrid had broken free from Erica, was stumbling toward the battle. His eyes were gold now, fully Lycan, Marcus's blood having tipped the balance. He moved with predatory grace, newfound power singing through his veins. Michael! Selene called. Stay back. He didn't listen. Michael grabbed a fallen death dealer's weapon, a silver stake, and drove it through Victor's back. The elder froze. Looked down at the stake protruding from his chest. It had missed the heart by inches, but the silver was burning, spreading toxins through his system. You, Victor gasped, staring at Michael. A hybrid. The future. How? He laughed, blood on his lips. How appropriate. Killed by the very thing I sought to destroy. Marcus stepped back, letting Victor fall. The ancient elder collapsed to his knees, 600 years of life draining away as silver poison did its work. Selene, Victor whispered, reaching for her. My daughter. My greatest creation. I'm sorry. I'm not your daughter, she said coldly. I'm your victim. Victor smiled. Then I taught you well. His hand fell. His eyes went dark. The elder was dead. Silence fell over the chamber. The remaining death dealers stared at their fallen leader, then at Marcus, then at each other. Without Victor's absolute authority, the coven's unity shattered. Some knelt before Marcus. Others fled. A few attacked and died quickly. Marcus stood over Victor's body, ancient and terrible and free. 600 years, he said quietly. 600 years of imprisonment. And it ends like this. Quick. Anticlimactic. Almost disappointing. That's death, Blade said. Never as grand as we imagine. No. Marcus turned to face them. No, I suppose it isn't. He looked at Michael. You struck the killing blow. A hybrid. Neither vampire nor Lycan, but both. You represent everything Victor feared, change, evolution, the end of the old order. He smiled. I like you. Michael swayed, barely standing. The adrenaline of combat was fading, leaving exhaustion and horror behind. I killed someone. I actually killed. You killed a monster, Selene said gently, supporting him. You freed thousands of Lycans. You ended a genocidal regime. What you did was justice. Was it? Michael's voice was hollow. Or did we just replace one monster with another? He looked at Marcus. You're free now. What will you do? Take Victor's place. Rule the coven. Continue the war. Marcus considered. An excellent question. What does the first vampire do when freed from centuries of captivity? He spread his wings. I think I'll leave. Explore the world. See what's changed in my absence. Perhaps find my brother William, free him as I've been freed. William's insane, Selene said. Uncontrollable. If you release him, then I'll deal with the consequences. As Victor should have dealt with them, rather than imprisoning me to clean up his mistakes. Marcus moved toward the shattered chamber doors. I'm done with this coven. Done with their petty wars. The vampires and Lycans can sort out their own future. I'm interested in mine. And the hybrid? Blade asked. Michael's stable because of your blood. What happens when it wears off? It won't. The blood of the first vampire is permanent. He's bound to my lineage now. A true hybrid, stable and strong. Marcus paused. Keep him safe, Daywalker. He represents something new. Something better than what we've built. Don't let the old world destroy him. Then Marcus was gone, a shadow with wings disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness. Blade looked around the chamber. Dozens of dead death dealers. Victor's corpse already decaying to dust. The eldership system shattered. The coven leaderless. Chaos and opportunity in equal measure. What now? Selene asked. Now, Blade said, we finish this war. Dawn broke over a city that didn't know its world had changed. In the mansion's throne room, what remained of the coven gathered, death dealers, aristocrats, administrators, all staring at the empty elder seats with shock and growing panic. Blade stood before them, blood-soaked and exhausted, flanked by Selene and Michael. Behind them, Lucian entered with his Lycan forces, the distraction force having fought their way inside once death dealer resistance collapsed. The two factions, Vampire and Lycan, faced each other across Victor's throne room. Centuries of hatred made manifest. One spark could reignite the war. Victor is dead, Blade announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. Marcus has abandoned you. Amelia hasn't arrived. Your elder system is broken. Your hierarchy is ash. What happens next is up to you. A vampire noble stepped forward, ancient, aristocratic, dripping with contempt. You dare address us, mongrel? You, Who murdered our elder and brought these beasts into our sanctuary? I didn't murder Victor. I executed him. Blade pulled out the photos from the dungeons, threw them at the noble's feet. For crimes against Lycans. For systematic torture. For planning genocide. Your elder was a monster, and every one of you who served him shares his guilt. Murmurs rippled through the vampires. Some angry. Some uncertain. A few looked at the photos and their faces went pale. Lies, the noble spat. Lycan propaganda. I've seen the dungeons, Selene said, stepping forward. Every vampire in the room knew her, Victor's perfect soldier, death dealer legend, incorruptible and loyal. Her words carried weight. I've seen the prisoners. The torture implements. The experimental logs. Everything Lucian claimed was true. Victor enslaved the Lycans. Brutalized them. Planned their extermination. We served a tyrant. Then what do you propose? Another vampire, younger, pragmatic. The Lycans will slaughter us now. Revenge for 2 centuries of oppression. We're defenseless without Victor's leadership. No, Lucian said, moving forward. His Lycan forces remained at the entrance, armed but not aggressive. We didn't fight this war for revenge. We fought for freedom. For the right to exist without chains. He looked at the assembled vampires. Victor's dead. His system is broken. This is our chance, both our chances, to build something better. Peace. The noble laughed bitterly. With Lycans? Impossible. The blood feud runs too deep. Does it? Michael stepped forward, and every eye turned to him. The hybrid. Living proof that vampire and Lycan could coexist. I'm both. Vampire and Lycan genetics in the same body. And I'm not tearing myself apart anymore. Marcus's blood stabilized me. Made me whole. He met their stares without flinching. If it's possible in one body, why not in one city? One world. Because you're an abomination, the noble hissed. Maybe, Michael said. Or maybe I'm the future. Evolution. The thing Victor feared most, proof that his rigid hierarchy was obsolete. Blade watched the vampires' faces. Fear. Anger. Uncertainty. But also something else, curiosity. Hope, buried under centuries of propaganda. Victor had ruled through control and fear. Without him, some were remembering how to think for themselves. Here's what's going to happen, Blade said. The war ends. Tonight. Both sides stand down. Return to your territories. Stop the killing. And then what? A death dealer demanded. We just forget 2 centuries of bloodshed? No. You remember it. You learn from it. You build something that makes sure it never happens again. Blade gestured to Lucian and Selene. They'll negotiate the terms. Territory agreements. Reparations. Justice for Victor's crimes. It won't be easy. It won't be fast. But it's better than mutual extinction. Why should we listen to you, the noble spat? You're not from this world. You have no stake in our future. You're right. I don't. Blade's smile was cold. Can evolve. And if we fail? Then you fail. Not my problem. But they both knew that was a lie. Blade cared more than he wanted to admit. Had invested more than he intended. These weren't his people, but he'd fought beside them, bled with them, watched them struggle towards something better than endless hatred. He'd see this peace attempt through. 3 days. 4. Make sure the fragile truce held long enough to become real. Then he'd go home and forget about vampire politics, Lycan revolutions, and hybrid futures. Probably. 3 days later, Blade stood in an abandoned warehouse on the city's edge. Lucian's scientists had transformed it into a makeshift ritual chamber, mystic circles drawn in blood, dimensional anchors forged from melted silver, components gathered from across the supernatural underworld. Michael was there, looking healthier than he had any right to. Marcus's blood had done more than stabilize him. It had perfected him. The hybrid moved with predatory grace, controlled his transformations at will, radiated power that made both vampires and Lycans nervous. "You sure about this?" Michael asked. "The ritual could fail. Could tear you apart. Could send you somewhere worse than here. It'll work." Blade checked his weapons, restocked, repaired, ready for whatever awaited back home. "And even if it doesn't, I've survived worse than bad portal magic." Selene entered with Lucian. The unlikely allies had been working non-stop to maintain the peace, negotiating treaties, establishing neutral zones, creating joint councils. It was exhausting, frustrating, and miraculous that it was working at all. "The peace is holding," Selene reported. "Barely. We've had 3 incidents, 2 Lycan revenge attacks on vampire aristocrats, 1 death dealer who couldn't accept the new order. But overall, both sides are cooperating." "Amelia arrived yesterday," Lucian added. "She's furious about Victor's death but pragmatic about the situation. With Marcus gone and the coven leader." "To me. And trust me, you don't want that." He didn't wait for acknowledgement. Just walked out of the throne room, past Lycans and vampires trying not to kill each other, into the pre-dawn light that was just starting to paint the sky. Selene caught up to him in the mansion's entrance hall. "You're leaving? Just like that? My work here is done. Victor's dead. The war's on pause. Michael's stable. What else is there? Getting you home." She pulled out papers Erica had recovered from Victor's private study. Research on the portal magic. The ritual the vampire from your world used. Lucian's scientists think they can replicate it. Blade took the papers, scanned them. Technical diagrams. Mystical formulas. Blood sacrifice requirements. It was possible. Dangerous, but possible. "How long?" he asked. 3 days. Maybe 4. They need to gather materials, prepare the ritual space, calculate dimensional coordinates. Selene's expression was unreadable. "You could stay longer. Help us build this peace. Your presence alone would prevent a lot of bloodshed. Not my world. Not my fight. You made it your fight the moment you stepped through that portal. No. I made Victor my fight because he was a monster who needed killing. Everything else," Blade gestured vaguely. "That's yours to figure out. We could use someone like you. Someone not bound by either faction's history. Someone who sees clearly. You've got Michael for that. The hybrid with no allegiance to either side. He's your bridge. Your symbol. Your hope." Blade met her eyes. "You don't need me. You need to believe in yourselves." Selene was quiet for a moment. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing the truth when I was blind. For helping end Victor's tyranny. For giving us a chance. Don't thank me yet. Your peace is fragile. One atrocity, one broken promise, and you're back to war." Blade started walking toward the mansion gates. "Prove me wrong. Build something that lasts. Show the universe that monsters." Victor thought control and fear created order. Prove him wrong. Build something based on choice and cooperation. Show that evolution beats tyranny. "We will," Selene promised. The scientists activated the ritual. Blood circles flared with crimson light. Dimensional anchors hummed with power. Reality began to tear, a gateway forming in the air, swirling darkness shot through with impossible colors. Blade felt the pull. Felt home calling across dimensions. One more thing, he called over the ritual's roar. The dungeons. The prisoners. They all get freed, right? Already done, Lucian shouted back. Every cell opened. Every chain broken. They're being rehabilitated, given medical care, reintegrated into society. Good. Blade stepped toward the portal. Then my work here really is finished. He stepped through. Reality inverted. Dimensions collapsed and reformed. Blade tumbled through the void between worlds, his hybrid biology keeping him intact when normal physics would have torn him apart. Then he was falling. Crashing. Landing hard on familiar concrete in familiar rain under a familiar polluted sky. New York. His New York. Blade pushed to his feet, checked his surroundings. Alley behind Club Blood, the vampire den he'd been raiding when the portal opened. How long had he been gone? Hours? Days? Weeks? His phone still worked. Same date as when he'd left. Only 6 hours had passed. Time dilation. Dimensional shenanigans. Didn't matter. He was home. Blade walked out of the alley, back into a world where vampires hid in shadows and humans lived in ignorant safety. Where his war was simpler, find the bloodsuckers, stake them, move on. No politics. No peace negotiations. No hybrid futures. Less, she's willing to negotiate. Doesn't trust us, but sees value in ending active hostilities. Good. Blade stepped into the ritual circle. Keep that momentum. Don't let the old guard drag you back to war. We won't, Michael said with certainty. I won't let them. Neither will the other hybrids. Blade's head snapped up. Other hybrids? Michael smiled. Turns out, stable hybrid blood is transmissible. Under controlled conditions. With consent. We've got 3 volunteers. 1 vampire, 1 Lycan, 1 human with Corvinus genetics. If the transformations succeed, we'll have proof that the hybrid future isn't just possible. It's inevitable. Jesus, Blade muttered. You're going to revolutionize this entire world. We're going to try. Michael extended his hand. Thank you, Blade. For the blood. For the example. For showing us that being a hybrid doesn't mean being a monster. Blade shook his hand. You were never a monster, kid. Just a man in an impossible situation. You handled it better than most. Lucian stepped forward. I promised to send you home if you killed Victor. You did. So I'm keeping my word. He gestured to his scientists. Whenever you're ready. One question first, Blade said. The vampire I followed through the portal. The one who opened it in the first place. What happened to him? Lucian's expression darkened. Dead. Killed resisting arrest 3 days ago. He was Ortega's coven. Fringe cult that worshipped the old ways. They've been eliminated. So no more portals. No more crossover. Not unless someone replicates the ritual. Which we won't. Lucian's tone was firm. Your world has its problems. Ours has ours. Best they stay separate. Blade nodded. Made sense. 2 supernatural worlds colliding rarely ended well. Selene approached last. If you ever find a way back, you'll always have allies here. The peace we're building, you made it possible. We won't forget. Just make sure you don't waste it. Blade looked at each of them. Which means I don't care if you all kill each other. Burn the city down. Exterminate both species. I'll go home and forget you ever existed. He let that sink in. But she cares. He gestured to Selene. And he cares. He pointed at Lucian. And if you're smart, you'll listen to them. Because they're offering you something Victor never did, a choice. Silence fell. The weight of decision crushing down on vampires who'd followed orders for centuries. Finally, a death dealer removed her weapons, placed them on the floor. I'm tired, she said quietly. Tired of fighting. Tired of killing. Tired of serving monsters. She looked at Selene. If there's another way, I'll follow you. Another vampire joined her. Then another. Not all, some fled, some held their weapons tighter, some looked ready to fight to the death. But enough. Enough to tip the balance towards something other than endless war. Lucian turned to his Lycans. Stand down. No attacks. No revenge. We won our freedom tonight. Don't throw it away on hatred. The Lycans hesitated. 2 centuries of oppression didn't evaporate because their leader said so. But Lucian's authority held. Slowly, weapons lowered. There will be trials, Selene said, addressing both factions. For war crimes committed by both sides. Vampires who tortured Lycans. Lycans who massacred innocent vampires. Justice, not revenge. Can you accept that? Uneasy nods. Reluctant agreements. The foundation of something fragile and new. The noble who'd been most hostile sneered one last time. This won't last. The moment your Daywalker leaves, the moment Lucian and Selene aren't watching, we'll return to war. It's our nature. Maybe, Blade said. But that's your problem, not mine. I've done what I came to do, ended Victor's regime. The rest is up to you. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Michael stays under Selene and Lucian's joint protection. Anyone, vampire or Lycan, who tries to harm him, experiment on him, or weaponize him answers. Just hunting. But as he disappeared into the New York night, Blade couldn't shake one thought. Somewhere in another dimension, vampires and Lycans were learning to coexist. Building peace from centuries of war. Evolving past hatred into something new. And a hybrid named Michael Corvin was leading them into that future. Maybe monsters could change after all. 6 months later, Blade stood in a vampire nest in Prague, stake raised over a leech who'd been preying on tourists. The vampire begged. They always begged. Please, I only feed on the willing, I never kill, I'm not like the others. Blade staked him anyway. Because vampires lied. Because mercy got you killed. Because the mission was simple, eliminate the threat. But as the vampire dissolved to ash, Blade hesitated. I've seen the dungeons. The torture chambers. We served a tyrant. Selene's voice. Still echoing in his head 6 months later. He shook it off. Moved deeper into the nest. Found 3 more vampires, young ones, barely turned, huddled together in terror. They could have run. Could have fought. Instead they just stared at him with wide eyes. The master's dead, one whispered. We're free. Please, we didn't choose this. We were turned against our will. We're trying to learn control, trying to find blood bags instead of victims. Blade's stake was already moving. It stopped an inch from the vampire's heart. What you did was justice. Michael's voice now. The hybrid who'd killed Victor not out of hatred, but out of necessity. The kid who'd been turned against his will and chose to use his curse for something better. Get out of here, Blade said quietly. Find a city with blood banks. Feed clean. Don't kill. If I hear about tourist deaths in Prague, I'm coming back. Understood? They ran. Didn't look back. Blade holstered his stake, walked out of the nest, and realized something had broken inside him. Or maybe something had been repaired. He couldn't tell anymore. His phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. The portal ritual is stable. We've refined the dimensional coordinates. If you ever want to visit, the door's open. Lucian. Attached was a photo, Selene and Michael standing in front of what looked like a joint vampire Lycan council chamber. Both species sitting together. Arguing, probably, but talking instead of killing. A second photo, Michael with 3 other hybrids, all stable, all healthy. The revolution made flesh. A third photo, a memorial wall. Names carved in stone. Vampires and Lycans who died in the 2-century war. Thousands of names. A reminder of what hatred cost. Blade stared at the photos for a long time. His world still needed him. Still had vampires who murdered innocents, who reveled in cruelty, who deserved the stake. But maybe, just maybe, not all of them did. Maybe some could be reasoned with. Rehabilitated. Given a chance to prove they were more than their hunger. Victor had believed in absolute solutions. Control through fear. Genocide disguised as order. And it had taken an outsider, someone not bound by centuries of hatred, to show his world that evolution was possible. Blade had always been an outsider. In the vampire world. In the human world. Trapped between species, belonging to neither, fighting alone because he trusted no one. But in another dimension, outcasts were building bridges. Hybrids were becoming the norm. Monsters were learning to be better. Maybe, Blade thought, I could learn something from that. He saved Lucian's number. Didn't respond. Not yet. But he didn't delete it either. Because sometimes the war wasn't about killing every enemy. Sometimes it was about knowing which ones deserved mercy and which ones didn't. Victor had lost that distinction. Had become the monster he claimed to fight. Blade wouldn't make that mistake. He walked through Prague streets as dawn approached, heading back to his safe house. Behind him, 3 young vampires were fleeing the city, terrified but alive. Given a chance they probably didn't deserve but might, just might, use wisely. Ahead of him, countless more nests waited. More vampires who needed killing. More battles to fight. But now he'd fight them with clearer eyes. With the knowledge that even monsters could evolve if given the right push. His mission hadn't changed. Protect the innocent. Eliminate threats. But the definitions had gotten more complicated. And Blade found, surprisingly, that he didn't mind. As he climbed the stairs to his safe house, his phone buzzed again. Another message from Lucian, P.S. Michael's officially been appointed the first hybrid ambassador. He's mediating disputes between vampire and Lycan councils. Kid's got a future in politics. Never thought I'd see the day. Blade smiled despite himself. Michael Corvin. Medical student turned accidental hybrid turned bridge between species. The future none of them had planned for but desperately needed. Tell him good luck, Blade typed back. He'll need it. We all will. Peace is harder than war. But we're making it work. One day at a time. That's all anyone can do. Blade set his phone down, cleaned his weapons, and prepared for the next hunt. Because even in a world where some vampires could be saved, plenty still needed killing. Balance. That's what it came down to. Knowing when to stake and when to spare. Victor had forgotten that balance. Had tipped so far into tyranny that he'd become indistinguishable from the monsters he fought. Blade wouldn't follow that path. Wouldn't let the mission consume his humanity the way it had consumed so many hunters before him. He'd learned that in another world. From a death dealer who'd questioned everything. From a Lycan leader who'd fought for freedom instead of revenge. From a hybrid who'd refused to let his curse define him. Different world. Same lessons. As Blade closed his eyes and let exhaustion take him, his last thought was simple, maybe crossing dimensions was exactly what I needed. Reminded me why I fight. Not just what I fight against. Conclusion. Blade's journey into the Underworld universe had lasted mere days by dimensional time, but its impact rippled across both worlds. In the Underworld dimension, the fragile peace between vampires and Lycans held, strengthened by Michael Corvin's hybrid diplomacy and the Joint Council's determination to honor Victor's victims by building something better. Selene became the Death Dealer's new commander, restructuring them from Victor's personal army into peacekeepers who protected both species from extremists on either side. Lucian's Lycans, finally free from centuries of oppression, focused on building infrastructure, education, and integration rather than revenge. Marcus never returned, but rumors placed him across the globe, sometimes helping, sometimes observing, always free. The hybrid program expanded slowly, carefully, with volunteers from all three species creating a new generation that belonged to no single faction. They became the peace's greatest defenders, living proof that evolution trumped hatred. In Blade's world, the vampire hunter operated differently. Not softer, he still staked threats without hesitation, but smarter. He learned to distinguish between monsters who reveled in cruelty and those who fought against their nature. He built a network of reformed vampires, blood bag users, daylight seekers, those genuinely trying to coexist. Not allies, exactly, but resources. Intelligence sources. Sometimes even partners against greater threats. And when the darkness felt overwhelming, when the mission seemed endless, Blade would look at his phone and see messages from another dimension. Photos of hybrid children learning to control their abilities, treaties being signed between former enemies, memorials being built to honor the fallen while promising never to repeat their mistakes. Proof that monsters could evolve. Proof that wars could end. Proof that even a weapon like Blade could be more than his creators intended. The Daywalker who'd crossed dimensions returned changed, still lethal, still dedicated, but now understanding that true victory wasn't measured in body counts. It was measured in the peace you built, the lives you saved, and the monsters you convinced to be better. Victor had believed in absolute solutions and died proving their failure. Blade had learned from his mistake. And in doing so, became something neither world expected, not just a hunter, but a teacher. Not just a weapon, but a bridge. Different worlds. Same lesson. Same hope. May the Force be with you. More stories await.